What was that noise on startup? Well, it runs. I mean, it's got a horrible tappy noise though. A couple of weeks ago, I picked up this Audi RSQ3 for half its value. It's worth about 16 and I paid £8,000 for it. And that's because it's got an issue with the engine. Now in today's video, we're going to find out exactly what that issue is, because in the last video, I thought it was top end, but I'm not so sure now. We're back on the Audi RSQ3 and today we're going to find out exactly what the issue with the engine is. Now in the last video I asked everyone to guess what they thought the problem was, and I cannot believe how many different guesses there actually was. So we're going to find out definitively what the issue is today. So start her up and get her in the workshop and crack on. So it's been sat here for about a week now, so let's see if it still makes that horrible noise on startup. Oh yeah, it's just that initial weird noise. It's weird that it doesn't actually make the noise much when it's cold. It gets worse as it gets warmer. Because I can barely hear it now. But when it runs for about 10-15 minutes, it gets worse. Now, I don't actually have the official tool to drain oil out of here, so I'm just trying to improvise a little bit. Guys, we're off to a very bad start. Engine, very bad. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but there are loads, there we go, look, loads of metal flakes in the oil. And that, to me, indicates bottom end. Look at that, look at all them flakes in there. Oh, this isn't good. This is not good at all. So that is indicating, yeah, big end bearing. And that was my initial worry, especially on that startup noise, because it was a really loud clank on startup, and it's the kind of noise you get when there's obviously no oil in it, and then it goes away pretty quickly as soon as it pumps oil into it. Well, when I say go away, obviously the oil puts a layer in between the bearing and the crank, so obviously it reduces the noise. But yeah, it's looking bad. So let's get the oil filter out anyway, and then we'll just inspect that just to, I don't know, what, just for inspecting's sake. I mean, let's be honest, we already know what way this is going to go. And then we'll start on removing the sump and going from there. Well, it is what it is, isn't it? And that means them tappets that I bought and just went and collected, looks like they'll be going back and be replaced with some bearings, and that's even if the engine is salvageable. Yeah, that's a bit deflating, if I'm honest, but there we go. It was half price. I bought it because I suspected it may need a whole new engine. So if anything, look at the bright side, or the silver lining, I may not need a new engine yet. Maybe I had to repair this one. So let's just whip the oil filter housing off and just have a look at how much rubbish is in there, and then it's going to be the case of sump off, start stripping the bottom end and see what we can access and just diagnose it properly as a big end bearing. And here we go. Look, if we get it to focus, I mean, you can see all the shards just from there, look, but look in there, look at all that oil, all the shavings. It's just, look at that. That looks to be like one complete bearing, or maybe more than one complete bearing, all completely disintegrated and sitting inside of here. Yeah, look at that. Bloody hell. Okay. Ooh. Well, I hope that just means the oil filter's done its job, because this is perfect. There's no shards, there's no metallic in this whatsoever. It's going to drain the rest of the oil. Well, some of it, it's not all going to go in there. But it's going to give me a good indication if it's picked anything up from the sump. Now I've just done a sample. If you can see in there, I don't know if you can, but there are no metal flakes in there whatsoever. And I've just done a sample of the sump probably a good litre has passed through that, and there's nothing in there whatsoever. And this is a really thin micron gauze. Whoa, and look what we've got here. Our metal flakes have turned into metal chunks. Look at the size of that bad boy. And we got some more down here as well. So, yes, engine very bad. Now, I was just having a look, and the second sump here, look, is covering up most of the bottom end, so we can't see. I can only really see piston 4, I think that is, but there looks nothing untoward there. And to be able to look under here to really ascertain where the damage is, I'm going to have to remove this second sump. And to remove the second sump, I've got to remove the gearbox. To remove the gearbox, I've got to remove all drive shafts, prop, exhaust, you name it. Rear diff, not rear diff, sorry, transfer box, got to remove that. And also got to remove the timing chain cover, which is on the bottom here, because it's gearbox end. I've also got to remove the pulley, and also there's another sealing flange there, just to get this second sump off. So, it's definitely easier just to remove the engine in box as a one, and then we can work on the engine a lot more easily once it's out the car. So I'm just going to do that. And I think the best way to get the engine in box out is probably to remove the whole front end. I don't think that big lump's going to just fit through the bottom without any issues. So I think we'll just remove the whole front end, drag the engine out, and then we'll strip it down and diagnose properly. Because let's be honest, we're going to have to take the engine out to repair it if it's repairable anyway. And if it's not repairable, I've got to change it. So I've got to take the engine out anyway. So it's just the obvious and best case to go forward. So let's crack on. And we're off to a shocking start, and I'm now going to have to down tools on this for now 2 to 3 days because I don't have a locking wheel key. I can't find one anywhere in the car. I don't have one that matches that, so I've had to just go on the key matching service, order one online, and it won't be here until, well, it's Friday now. It's not going to be here till at least Tuesday, so ruined the video. This is why you need more than one project car. I was working on the GTR the other day and had to put tools down for that as well, because again I come across a part that I didn't have, so now I'm going to go back to working on the GTR because I've got that part. And also I've ruined me brake fluid bottle. I forgot it was under the car and just lowered the car onto it, and also lost half my brake fluid all over the floor as well. So yeah, it's a great start for the RSQ3. Good thing for you is though, it's going to resume footage now, and I've got to wait 3 days. So once my locking wheel key turned up, luckily it was the correct one because I just did it by looking at it. We can start ripping off this front end. We'll start with the front bumper, and it's got these silly wheel trims on like the T-Roc R had as well, and they're actually bonded to the front bumper, so you have to peel them off. Stupid design, but once you've done that, there's a couple of bolts at the top, a couple of bolts at the bottom, and the front bumper then can just pull off and then remove the wiring to the bumper. And that reveals our lock carrier here, which has got our radiator, condenser, intercooler, and gearbox cooler all attached to it, along with a crash bar as well. So we need to remove some wiring, so like horns, etc. And then we've got our boost pipe hoses we need to disconnect, headlights out as well, and then we'll put the car in the air and start draining the coolant out the system as much as possible, and also remove the gearbox cooler lines as well and drain the coolant out from there. And then we can bring it down, remove any other wiring as well, such as radiator fan wiring, and then we can remove the crash bar, and then the whole lot comes off as a one piece. And then we're going to move on to the underside of the car and remove the prop shaft, which is 3 10mm bolts. And once I found the combination of extension bars and ratchets, I managed to prise that off the gearbox or the transfer box, and that was fine. And then the turbo bracket was next up, and that was surprisingly accessible, so I managed to get that off without too many issues either. Dog bone mount off as well, and then we need to drop the wishbones to remove the drive shafts from the hubs. And on this, because they're press fit drive shafts into the transfer box, I didn't know if we were going to lose any fluid by pulling them off. I wasn't sure, so just to save that, I'm going to drag the whole box out with the drive shafts in, and to do that I need to remove the drop links. One side did remove, but the other side didn't. I'm hoping I can just pivot the gearbox out. So we're nearly there with the bottom of the engine. Obviously the front's all off. We have the prop shaft off, 3 bolts, really difficult to get to. You won't be able to see it, but it's literally in there. The bolts were this side, so I had to get a massive long extension. You probably saw it. Exhaust I managed to get off. Amazingly, the bolt for the exhaust is just in that gap. You're not going to be able to see it. It's just up there, look, where that spring is. And it was actually really accessible for one of the first times ever. So that came off all right. What else is there? I mean, I was going to drop the whole subframe and suspension with the engine gearbox and everything and drop it all as one. But the steering rack looked a bit awkward to get to, and I still would have had to have removed the prop anyway. So the fact that the turbo is easily accessible kind of swayed my decision to give it a go, leaving the subframe in place. But I've removed this drop link here, so we don't have to take the drive shafts out. But this side wouldn't come out at all. There are only little M6 splines in the end of the bolt here, and they round off really easily. So if it's a bit tight, it just rounds off and you can't undo them. So it's a really big design flaw on those. So I'm hoping just to swing the engine and box out like that way and pivot it, and then just slide the drive shaft through that hole. That is the idea. I'm hoping that's going to work. So yeah, we're pretty much there with underneath. The dog bone mount is loose, so there should be no other wiring down the bottom here. So we just need to bring it back down like so and remove a few other bits. So we've got coolant hoses going into the car, we've got a vacuum line there, and we've got our gear linkage for the DSG, and there's a few more fuel lines and a few more electrical connections. We've also got to trace the wire ECU line back, so we're going to have to remove the scuttle panel as well. The ECU, I'm guessing, is under here somewhere, so we're going to have to unplug the ECU and take the engine and box out with the loom intact. So there's a few more things we're going to have to do here. Remove alternator wiring, and then, yeah, pick the engine gearbox up, swing her out, and we'll start stripping it down. So back to the time lapse. Good, no order. So we are nearly there. There's just two more bolts to get the gearbox off. In hindsight, probably should have done most of the other bolts while the engine was still in the car. Would have been a lot easier, but the last two look like an absolute arse to get to. One of them is just here, look. See the tip of it there? I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to get in there tool-wise to remove that. I think I'm gonna have to remove the oil filter housing and the oil filter and see if I can get in it from this way. Because look, there is, yeah, just absolutely nothing gonna get in there from here. And then the other one, again, is right down the back there. I think you can just about see it in the center of the screen, look, the bolt. And again, I think I'm gonna have to move the gearbox cooler to get to that, which is, again, a pain in the arse. They don't make this simple, do they? Oh my absolute... Imagine how hard it is getting it on. And it's this difficult just to get it off. This is what we're dealing with. It's ridiculous. Right. Honestly. So after about 45 minutes, I finally got the engine on the engine stand and I've tilted it so we can start working on the bottom end of the engine. Now, the reason we had to take the engine and the gearbox out is because to get to this second sump here, which is what we need to remove to check the big end bearings, there was bolts in here. So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think there's 6 bolts in total that bolted on the gearbox end, which was stopping us from getting this second sump off, which is why we had to do all this work. Now, we also do need to remove the front pulley as well, because I think there's a timing chain cover here, which has also got a few bolts on it. You can see one there, look. So, but now obviously we've got it in this position, it should be a lot easier and nicer to work on. So, let's keep going. So we just need to re-remove the sump and also remove the oil pickup pipe as well. That's the only thing in our way. Here we go. Let's try that. There we go. Right, now I wonder which one of these 5 it's going to be. If it, well, that's if it is bottom end. It still might not be yet. So I think we're going to start off just by grabbing the and see if we can get any. Oh, there we go. There's some playing this one straight away, look. That. Is that number 2? Well, it's number 4. I think that's number 4. So there's playing that one straight away. Let's check the others. If I can get any. No, that was good. Can't get to any others. No, well, I can't get to any others at the minute, but this one, not good. Look. So let's whip that one out. Right, we're about to see the extent of this damage. Brace yourself. Whoa! I think it's just, oh no. Yeah, it's not looking good, is it? To be fair, the cap is alright. Well, it looks alright anyway. Whether it is or not, I don't know. Right, let's just push this off. A crack fitted. There we go. So, what have we got here then? Well, there you go. Big end confirmed. Right, what we got here? We got some of a shell, and I can't even get it off. And some more of a shell on the. Oh, to be fair, I don't know if the crank. It's hard to say, but I can't feel anything on it. It might just need cleaning. I don't want to. I'm not going to say anything at this stage. Obviously, I've only looked at 1 out of 5. There is still a bearing cap stuck to the underside of the con rod. So let's just get that off. So there we go, problem now found. So well done to everyone that said the big end. I was even pretty convinced it wasn't big end myself, just because of the noise. It wasn't a low down noise. It didn't sound like it was coming from the big end, and it was really high pitched for, it just really sounded like top end. But yeah, well done everyone that said bottom end. Definitely cylinder 4 bearings, main bearings have gone. All the other 4 look to be okay. So that's a good thing, and it's now just going to be down to whether we can save this crank or not. It does feel smooth. There's no nicks in it. It's not rough at all. It's definitely got obviously heat spots on it, but now I just need to see whether that can be cleaned up and it's then measures to be within spec. So that'll be the next thing to do, and obviously to get the crank out is going to be, yeah, the rest of the engine strip. So I've never actually worked on a 5-cylinder before, so it's going to be the first time we are going to be working on that. So yeah, it's kind of good. And here are our caps here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, what we have left of 4, and 5. All the other 4 okay. There is a slight nick in the bearing, look. That isn't a hair, that is a slight nick in the bearing there of cylinder 3. Obviously 4, you can see the just hit. It's not rough. Doesn't look damaged, but you can just see where it's got hot and all the heat spots on it. And then you've got number 5 as well. So yeah, it does just look to be cylinder 4. So yeah, this video has not gone the way I thought it was going to do. I thought we were going to be in for a nice little top end rebuild, and that turned out not to be the case. But I've always said what's bad for me is good for you, because that means we will now be rebuilding the RSQ3's engine, and it isn't going to be a 5-minute job like I thought it was when I bought it. So as always guys, please do subscribe if you haven't already, and also go follow me on Instagram at saving_salvage as well. And I'll catch you in the next video with this one when I've ordered the parts in, and we've just, well actually, before I order the parts in, I better make sure we can fix it first, then I'll order the parts. Cheers guys.